So I do apologize. We're running a little bit delayed. This guy didn't shut up, and we're just rambling on and rambling on, rambling on, rambling on, rambling on.
It was just 3 minutes. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it might 3 minutes, but it felt like 3 hours.
Hey, man, that's what we want here. We want enthusiastic wrestling fans to come on and talk.
I can talk like the guy from the Zootopia throne of the sloth, where like Flash.
The sloth that worked at the DMV.
Like, for the rest of the podcast.
This is going to be fun. Anyway, it's the Debate Show 3. This is the third installment. This guy at the side of me is obviously one champion. He's already been crowned. See if we can defend it. We've got Haney on the show. We've got a nice, good debate. But the question is, I don't know what everyone's going to bring to the table, but we'll see. But first, intern, roll the intro. And welcome to episode 126 of the Magic of Wrestling, the Debate Show 3. I'm, of course, the magician, Liam Wakelin.
And I am the F-It expert, the only American you see on your screen. I'm Mr. Isaacs.
Of course. Sorry,
I'll let you finish.
Don't interrupt. Damn it. Mr. Isaacs, obviously it's the weekly catch-up. How you been, man?
Oh, man, it is wild and it is crazy. I had the kids all week. They've been, tearing my house apart, and that's just typical, usual stuff when you have children. I'm multitasking right now. I'm watching the Kentucky Wildcats basketball game over my shoulder here, talking to you two gentlemen, and then I got my kids running around here, which who knows if they'll make an on-screen cameo here or not. But been a wild week, but it's been a good one. I can't complain too much. How about you guys?
I mean, for me, it's been obviously the first week back at work, so you're trying to get back into that routine again.
Yes,
dude,
I had so much trouble sleeping because I took all of last week off, so I hadn't worked since before Christmas, which I assume is the same for you. And it completely screwed up my sleep pattern to where this week I just felt tired and dead all week.
Yeah, I'm the same, but was it because I do an analytical job? I mean, I've not worked for a few weeks and my brain doesn't know how to cope with not thinking about stuff.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
Of course, we're joined by, I don't even know how to describe it. Is it the salty son of a bitch, or is it just three straight? I don't know. Do you know what? The guy, introduce yourself.
Sorry, I'm just typical. I've just been phoned. There's somebody at the door. So
you even called us before we came live.
Aye. Right, I'll be back in a minute.
All right, bud.
Jesus Christ. I just knew that would come in. Do you know what I mean? I'm so glad we cut the Magic Weekly out this week.
I want to know what the deal is with the 3 shredded wheat. What am I missing there?
Do you know what? I'm asking myself the same question. Do you know what I mean?
I love the logo he has there, though, the Haney's Haterade. He is such a talented graphics artist. I need to get him to make some shit for me because he's really good.
Yeah, we have to talk absolute garbage until he comes back, you know what I mean? But I tell you what, I mean, while we're obviously waiting for Haney, I mean, you obviously checked a lot of the wrestling news out. There's some pretty interesting stories, let's be honest.
Yeah, this is everything's kind of resetting for the year. We're entering WrestleMania season. Wrestle Kingdom just went by. This is one of those kind of peak times where wrestling kind of ramps up a bit. Royal Rumble's around the corner.
Yep. I mean, like I said, Wrestle Kingdom, mostly Nick Nemeth. I nearly got Nick. Yesterday, I got Nick Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth mixed up, and I don't know how I did that.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I have to think. I'm like, now Dolph is Nick, right? He's not Ryan. I have to sometimes kind of remind myself of that as well. But yeah, he showed up at Wrestle Kingdom. It looked like $1 million, man. It was looking suave. The crowd gave him a pretty good reaction when he came out. They were kind of shocked.
I like it. I kind of like the reason, obviously. New Japan. It's something different. We know he was obviously underutilized in WWE, and I found this image, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Looks like he's a detention school kid or something.
He kind of looks like he could be like a Yakuza hitman or something. Like, I don't know if that's what his gimmick's going to be or not, but no, he looks suave, man. He looked really good. I'm excited to see what he does. He had a little dust up with Dave Finlay, and let's see what he does. I'm pretty excited to see. I'm glad he went there instead of like Impact, with all due respect to TNA. I just think he'll have better matches, I think, in New Japan.
I think he will be in TNA though. Sorry, I'm back.
You just appear.
You used something. You said something there. I don't like Liam, and that is underutilized. I don't think he was ever underutilized in WWE, but I know it's a personal opinion, but
okay, but how can you say wasn't underutilized? Look at what did he do as of late, which you can look back saying he did that.
let me just Wikipedia his title runs.
He had some title runs. He was the world heavyweight champion for a stint. That was kind of like his peak. And then he held the mid card title some. I mean, Dolph was always kind of that workhorse guy, and he just did an excellent job of putting people over and making people look like $1 million. And that was kind of his role.
Yeah.
Okay.
So his WWE accomplishments are 2 times world heavyweight champion, NXT champion once, WWE Intercontinental champion 6 times, US champion twice, SmackDown tag team champions 1, Raw champions twice, tag team champions once, Money in the Bank winner, 22nd Triple Crown champion, Slammy Award winner 2 times. What was it? So yeah, I think.
Okay, so after all them titles you've just mentioned, right? Which ones would you say do you remember the most? Because me personally, I don't remember much of them. I remember him winning them, but the title reigns are really not the best.
No, well, both times coincided with them getting an injury when he had the 2 world championships. And he actually lost an Intercontinental Championship once to an injury as well. So, what was it? I mean, I certainly, maybe I just look at it from a different perspective, but I certainly look at what he's accomplished there, and then you look at what somebody like Roddy Piper. I mean, you're saying Roddy Piper wasn't it was undervalued in the WWE because he won like 2 titles. And I'm not including the silly one he won with Flair, when they were over the hill.
Now, granted, that was back in the day when they didn't have 100 shows going on at once and they hot shot titles around like crazy.
Yeah.
So I kind of held a little more legitimacy, a little more value back then.
Yeah.
But guys, we can't forget the absolute best thing that Dolph Ziggler ever did: the Spirit Squad.
I thought you were going to say Sonny there.
I think I'd give him accolades for Amy Schumer over Sammy. So yeah, he had a little thing with Amy Schumer for a little while.
Yeah, she said.
You don't know.
What was she said? He was just too much.
Yeah, she went on the Howard Stern show, and this is when Dolph had like the short brown hair when they paired him with Vicky Guerrero. So they posted on the screen like a picture of him with the brown hair, and Howard and Robin were all ogling over. Ooh, he looks like a very fit guy, and she was like, "Yeah." I couldn't handle him. Like the sex was just like too athletic. Like it's like throwing me around and shit. Like it was too much for me to handle.
Joseph Graham says Dolph's best title is his feud with the Miz over the IC title. Mr. Isaac, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Yeah.
Haney?
Yep, definitely. That feud was one of the best from that period of time. With the Miz.
Dolph did some great work, man. He did some great work, and I'm kind of excited to see if he has a good, legitimate New Japan run, to see him like work some Puro style matches with some of those guys. Yeah. I'm curious to see how he would handle that.
I think he might do that for a while, and then Triple H might want him back, But for me, what was it? For me, what was it? It's hard because there's not a lot amount of guys now that can, like in the WWE, can wrestle his style, whereas he's got that bit of faster pace, inside the what was it, and he can do a bit more. It was a lot of spots. He was a bit of a Shawn Michaels, What was it with the selling and that as well? He's a phenomenal seller.
Yeah, he was very similar to Shawn Michaels. Like, I mean, I think, I don't want to say he was as good as Shawn Michaels, but he was the closest thing to Shawn Michaels of his time, other than himself being there for a while, obviously. But yeah, Dolph was great, man.
Yeah,
I know he's a fan as well.
I think sometimes that's more of a hindrance than a compliment to the wrestler. You're a Shawn Michaels or you're a Bret Hart, or because immediately you're in that shadow.
Yeah.
And, what was it? And if you don't do the same stuff, then you've sort of failed.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah.
Right then, we've obviously rambled on for about a good 11 minutes. So we also, as I mentioned earlier, there's no Magic Weekly. We're going to get straight into our main event.
The main event.
I've left the quarter again. Damn it! I've just realised.
Liam, you screw that up every week, pal. I'm gonna need you to fix that for next week.
Why don't you just get an animation to do it? Just position it right below yourself, Liam, and put your hand there and go.
Yeah, he's got the he's got the Stream Deck now. He can just press a button and all of a sudden the quarter just goes like a mouse trap going down the screen.
I've got my own work for next week, Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got two sponsors. Obviously, we'll mention one at the start of the show, this segment, then we'll also mention one at the end. First one is, of course, FTW Wrestling. Now, Mr. Isaacs, this is obviously Natalia Markovas and Brian Idle's wrestling school. I can never remember where it actually is based.
Largo, Florida.
Okay, there you go. Simple as that. So if you guys want to learn from two of the good friends of the show, you know what? Enough rambling on. I think this video just really sums it up best, right?
Determination, perseverance. These are the qualities that make a champion. Do you have what it takes to be the next wrestling superstar? Are you ready to turn your dreams into a reality? At Fight the World Wrestling's World Wrestling Academy, we can help you become the champion you were meant to be. Our world travel trainers, Brian Idle and Natalia Markova, are well-known industry professionals with years of experience in the world of wrestling. From the basics to advanced techniques, they are dedicated to help give you the tools that you need to succeed in the ring. Our training program is tailored to challenge you, push you to your limits, and help you discover your full potential. Come join our diverse group of talent. Join us at Fight the World Wrestling's World Wrestling Academy and make your dream a reality. Visit our website or contact us to learn more and start your journey to the top today.
Today.
Not tomorrow, not the day after that, not the day after that. Today.
Do it today, you son of a bitch.
Or unless if you're down in like Australia or Japan, then yesterday, but today.
Yesterday, you son of a bitch.
Dear guys, obviously it's the debate show number 3. So, Mr. Isaacs, you know about this actual show, but for people listening, what we do is the good thing we like to do on this actual channel is we have a good debate about everything in wrestling. So, the concept's pretty simple. We all bring something to the table to debate. We don't know what it is until obviously the person debates it, and the idea is to get the person to disagree. Now, Mr. Isaacs, you're obviously a champion of this, so who would you like to go first? I'll let you decide.
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead. What?
I feel like, first of all, just a little preamble here. I think this is going to be hard for me to win because Haney is the one person in the community that tends to agree with me more than anybody else.
Okay.
Now, see, when I have Aaron on here, I can rile him up by saying I think Orange Cassidy's gimmick's stupid or something like that, and his head starts spinning, and his head starts coming apart like the Canadians on South Park.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll get that same reaction out of Haney, but we'll see.
Well, if you watch Aaron, as soon as you say something like that, he goes on his phone and he goes to Amazon. And he's obviously ordering like tissues because he's going to have a good cry later on about it.
All right, so here's my number one. I think one of you is going to agree with me. I think one of you is not.
Okay.
But my number one here is that people say that AEW is wrestling and WWE is sports entertainment, right?
Mhm.
But I think, in my personal opinion, after analyzing the shows for years now, I feel like AEW is almost as much of sports entertainment as it is wrestling. So I'm going to say that I think AEW can be called a sports entertainment company as well. And here's my reason behind this. They do gimmicky shit too. They have Leatherface come out with a chainsaw and chase people around. They have stadium stampede matches. They have matches where Matt Hardy teleports from one side of the arena to the other. This is all kind of stuff you would see back in the day, like Kane would do, teleporting, or like Undertaker, or, you saw stuff like this a lot throughout the WWE's history. And I'm not knocking AEW for doing this. I mean, obviously you get sponsorships and you got to please your network and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not faulting them for it. But I do think that when people say that, oh, this is just pure wrestling, this isn't sports entertainment, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. AEW is sports entertainment as well. Discuss.
Okay. Annie, I'll let you obviously start this off. Go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I think what was it? You're 100% correct. Just for the exact reasons you've just sort of listed, what was it? It sort of perplexes me at times when people like watch an AEW event and they'll do something. They'll watch something like a gimmicky, like a John Moxley match, and they'll say it's amazing. And then the next match is Daniel Bryan, and they'll say, "Oh, that's wrestling. That's amazing." It says, "Well, what one is it? Is it one or the other?" Now, some people say, "Well, you can enjoy both." For me, if I'm watching a wrestling show, I want to watch wrestling. I watch WWE for sports entertainment. My big sort of thing with the EW in the last sort of 18 months is it's sort of more and more. Getting into that sort of WWE sort of sports entertainment angle. The angle's more important than the match, what was it? And they're going to make the same mistakes that WWE do. I mean, people like WWE looks so polished and so thing, but they've made a lot of mistakes over the. If you go back and watch I suppose that's another debate. Go back and watch the Attitude Era. It's not that great to watch. They made a lot of mistakes. They did a lot of stupid stuff. And it's really just from that. It's interesting. I was watching a while back. I was watching a sort of thing with Danhausen, and he was actually out of character, and he was talking about it. And he was talking about how he was like formed his sort of character, and he took it from like horror movies from the 30s and certain wrestlers and certain like. There's a lot of Simpsons in his character, Yeah. But one of the things that he sort of spoke about was. Obviously, he's Danhausen, he's got the curse and that, but he doesn't want to do any of the stuff like Kane or Undertaker where he shoots bolts, because he wants to bring a sort of like a weird way of saying it, a sort of a realism to what he is, He knows he's not evil. He knows he's not like sort of like got magical powers, What was it? And he wanted to sort of focus on because he's actually quite a good wrestler, If you go and watch some of his stuff, as he said himself, he's just an average wrestler. He's just an average wrestler. When you just wrestle somebody, he needed something to get over that, And I think that's what AEW has done more and more in the last 18 months with like Julia Hart and things like that. Very, very gimmicky sort of characters. Not as bad as like WWE in the 90s with like busmen and clowns and things like that. A bit more sort of mature, not mature, evolved. But
it's not as over the top.
Yeah, it's not as over the top. It's subtle, but yeah, definitely. And it's funny when he does cuss people, and the whole teeth stick just still gets me.
I mean, obviously from my point of view, I mean, I've never actually thought about it as in that actual way before, but when you mention gimmick matches, you're like, well, yeah, this is kind of entertainment. That's one thing you want to do. So I kind of agree with that. The other way I have to disagree is obviously the wrestling side. With the way I looked at it with wrestling is like, can you take a wrestler from one company? So can you take a wrestler from AEW and put him in a match against somebody against WWE? I don't think you can, based on the wrestling style, the philosophy and stuff like that. So on the gimmick side, I have to agree on is sports entertainment, but from the wrestling side, no, I'm gonna have to disagree.
Okay, so you don't think Orange Cassidy's stick is like sports entertainment?
Oh, yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean by the gimmicks and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? That is the entertainment. I'm talking about, the wrestling side.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it's how you look at it. I mean, everybody's applauding like Toni Storm just now, and she's doing a fantastic job. But she's basically Chelsea Green in TNA years ago. You know.
Yeah.
It's, what was it called? What was it? But if you say that to somebody, it's like, oh, you're being a hater. You're being a hater. It's like, well, if anything, I've probably watched too much. I've probably seen too much wrestling now. So that's. But the more you see something, the more cynical you become of things. And
even if something is a slight ripoff,
yeah,
it's still fun.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think the timeless Toni Storm gimmick's great. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I loved when she was on the. I don't know if either one of you saw this, but when she was at the media scrum, the post conference for the last pay-per-view, she was like talking about who she was going to call out or who she would like to face that was a free agent, and she was insinuating it was Mercedes Moné because she said, if the money is there, then I'll tell you this. And she stands up and says, Wendy Richter, I will fuck you up.
They should totally bring in Wendy Richter now. They should probably go on the phone we need to make this happen.
Oh, Wendy Richter. That was
Dear.
great.
Has anyone got anything to add on this obviously topic with Mr. Alex has brought, or can we move on?
Well, I was just going to say that Wendy Richter and Bret Hart could form a mixed tag team called the Screwjob.
Shawn Michaels, Fabulous Moolah, we're coming for you.
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay, Haney. What would you want to bring to the table to debate?
So for me, the first one I wanted I wanted to debate was a sort of play on what unfortunately what Mr. Isis used to say, but I was using this term sort of entertainer or athleticism. So I'll go for my other one, and state that I think both companies, in terms of, and this is like maybe an odd topic to go on, what was it, from different angles, but I think particularly WWE is overproduced, and the production now is too sterile, and it's lost the grittiness of what wrestling is.
Mm-hmm.
And to an extent TNA as well. What was it? But WWE and AEW's got they're a bit. AEW like ringside's a bit more cleaner than it was was in the beginning as well. But I absolutely love back in the day when you had the photographers round the ring, and it looked like a sport event. It looked like something was happening. You didn't have everything lit up. What was it? You could see. It's like you can see everybody now. You can see everybody's face. You could probably scan a camera and pick a face, put it in was it one of these apps, and they'll find the person on Facebook. It's that pristine. And it looks very sterile. I think wrestling products just now look very sterile. I love the foggy, sort of dirty, smoky look of WCW.
Yeah.
What was it called? But yeah, that's why I want to sort of debate.
Okay, Mr. Isaac, over to you.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think particularly WWE is very overly produced.
Yeah.
I mean, the jump, the camera jumps, and I hate the Hollywood shaky cam stuff. That drives me insane. Oh my God, that drives me crazy. Yeah. And I don't think, I know people probably think that's going to get better now that Kevin Dunn retired. I don't think so, because Kevin Dunn, the people he trained are the people that are going to be doing this now. So they're going to be doing the exact same stuff that Kevin Dunn did.
Yeah.
But I just hate that. I don't want it to look Hollywood. I want it to look a little gritty. Now, WWE historically has always been a bit bright and colorful. So I understand that, but I like the grittiness too. And I liken it to like the way the UFC's always done. The UFC used to have a ramp, and they used to do fireworks, and they used to do shit like that. But then when the Fertitta brothers came in and bought it back in the early 2000s, them and Dana White, they decided to make it grittier. So then they got rid of the ramp, and they just made the entrance where like the fighters come out of the crowd in a dark arena. Yeah. And it just looks so good. It looks like you're going to an underground seedy fight. It looks amazing. And if you watch some of the old territories from like back in the 80s, that's what they look like too. It's very gritty and it just looks fantastic. It looks like you're watching fights. So I agree with you. I like that better personally.
I've just ironically I've just recently been watching what was it, WWE 84, 85 leading up to sort of WrestleMania, and it's totally that, you know. It was everything. I mean, that whole run itself, maybe that's something for a future show, Liam. That just whole like early run of like WWE with the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, maybe something to look at. But some of the stuff they were doing, you know, in the lead up, the setup to WrestleMania is forgotten. It was just amazing, you know, in the arenas, the shots, like you say, like Piper coming through, like almost like coming through the crowd, and the police are there, and you know, in the Boston Garden and things like that. It's just so cool. It just looks so authentic, you know, which is sort of lost. Even just like interview, like why would a guy come out to the ring and do an interview to himself? You know, have somebody in the ring talking to them, you know. Just little things like that, you know. Sorry.
I heard that on did you hear that on Cornette's podcast last week? Because I heard them talking about this. They're like, maybe they'll go back to like someone actually interviewing somebody instead of just somebody walking out with a microphone and standing in the ring for 20 minutes.
Is Cornette talking about? I thought Cornette was in his vacation.
No, he's back now. He mentioned it on the last show. They came up and they talked about the Kevin Dunn retirement, and that's one of the things that he specifically said was like he would like to see interviewers come out to the ring and actually interview people again.
Yeah, but I've always been an advocate of the sort of like the sort of sports sort of. I mean, even back to WCW, but when they were doing the interviews at the beginning of the invasion. Before it was the NWO, you know, where they had Nash and that at the booth and things like that. It was just so cool, you know. What was it called? I've always sort of liked that sort of presentation. I always wished that the WWE would present a bit more sport-like, you know.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. And if you listen to what when I'm always being salty, as Liam says, you know, that's what I'm getting at. You know, what was that's what I remember. That's what I remember good wrestling to be, you know, that sort of presentation.
If I could just make one point on top of this before Liam goes, the announcers, like the ring announcers, like I have no problem with the fact that they're women, because the men do this too. Justin Roberts does it. Mike Rome does it. Why do they always have to shout?
Yeah.
Like, why can't it just be somebody with a strong voice? Like the Fink that just announces something, that gotta scream someone's name. It's like, why do you have to yell? Like, what's with the shouty introductions? When did that become a thing?
Yeah, even with the Fink as well. Going back to presentation, Madison Square Garden, that mic coming down, you know, that's iconic.
The big boom from the ceiling, right in front of that big ass boom right in front of Fink's face. That was it was great aesthetic. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, one thing you mentioned there is the entrances. Now, AEW, when the obviously when the AEW first started, I absolutely love the entrances. Do you know what I mean? It got like what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to think what we're looking for. It was something different. Do you know what I mean? You had your two entrances. It was like, it wasn't the best, but it was like, you could tell it looked deep. Just something different, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what TNA did back in the beginning, but without the cardboard and the styrofoam.
Yeah, TNA had the double ramp thing going on for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and when obviously they went to obviously what it is now, I mean, I will be honest, I don't like it at the minute. It looks too much like just SmackDown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, if you want to be different to WWE, you've got to do different things. The gimmick matches, I mean, we could debate that. That's something different, I guess, but again, the other thing I don't like is the video packages. I feel like they are overproduced. I mean, I like the ones where you're sitting down and just basically talking like we are, you know, stuff like that. Not like some powerful like music, like effects and stuff. I think Annie's right. I think it is overproduced some stuff.
Yeah.
Do a long edge video package of like Creed in the background.
There's a funny clip on YouTube of JR back in Raw in like 2000 when the My Sacrifice played for like it says, "Oh, here we go for with the 1 millionth time," because he played it at every sort of interval. But yeah, I mean, Yeah, totally. Just the production takes me out of it. And I mean, the WWE, I mean, if you watch a full WWE pay-per-view, you end up with a headache because it's like flicker, 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 flicker. You know, it's just like stay on the guy.
Remember the vroom sounds during Fastlane during
Oh my god!
God, that was awful.
But what was the other thing they did? They did something else similar to that.
They've had a couple like that where every like transition of scene they like had a sound.
Yeah, it was like they were doing stuff with Bray and things like. I mean, Bray's was so creative, but you almost made it comic book. You almost wish what was it? Bray Wyatt was doing something in like a GCW, that sort of stuff in a GCW or an MLW or something like that, where it was gritty, you know, and but that production, but on that show, you know, because it would have made more sort of sense, you know. But and the camera work as well just shows too much. Just sit back. The reason people look at wrestling now and see it as so fake is because it's like if somebody's like on the top rope punching somebody in the face, don't zoom in at the punches, for crying out loud, you know, because
yeah,
you know, it's just like
a little bit of a less is more approach. You don't have to see
damn.
that the knuckle didn't clearly connect with the forehead.
Dear. Anyone got else anything to add before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Awesome.
Good.
Mr. Isaac, back to you.
All right. So my next one, this is an interesting one. I'm curious to see what you guys think about this, whether you agree or disagree. I think that when Tony Khan wanted to start a wrestling promotion, I think instead of creating AEW, I think he should have just bought Ring of Honor at that point and made Ring of Honor what he's turned AEW into. He could have used the Ring of Honor name, and he could have used the Ring of Honor legacy and lineage and tape library to help build up the shows. And he could have had Ring of Honor Dynamite and Ring of Honor Rampage. And I think that using the Ring of Honor name would have had so much more cachet than using a name named after literally a faction of the Elite. I think that Ring of Honor should have been what he had done. I think it would have been better. I think it would have resonated more with people to say the second major promotion on earth is Ring of Honor, which has this brilliant legacy that CM Punk used to be here and Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson. And I just think that would have resonated better than creating a brand new company with a new name. And I'm curious to see what you two think of that.
So, I mean, for me, you could have really done that with TNA as well, because TNA was really good.
Yeah, you could have done it with TNA too. Yeah.
Because, I mean, TNA was absolutely incredible, just some great wrestlers. The only thing that lets it down is obviously management, which we've obviously covered that, obviously, in our highs and lows series. But, yeah, do you know what? I think you're right. Obviously, you've got the lineage, obviously, we've talked in terms of Ring of Honor. You've got the lineage there. You've got, obviously, some great talent. And if I remember rightly, didn't these 5 people, obviously, Cody, the Bucks, Omega, weren't they in Ring of Honor anyway?
Yep.
Yeah. Omega was there, like, in the past, like a few years prior to them shutting down. But Cody and the Bucks were right there, like leading up to the formation of AEW.
There is a story there as well, and if you in actual fact, I'm sure it'll come out more eventually. That before the whole Tony Khan thing happened, they had actually shook hands on all, because they had all left New Japan, and what was it? And they were all going to, they were, for want of a better way, they were going to be all in on trying to do something with Ring of Honor. And as the story goes, they all backed out because Tony came on the scene.
Yeah.
What was it? Because it was a handshake, not a contract. But was and there was a sort of a bit of bitterness at the time, you know. But was it around it? If you actually go dig through and see some of the sort of stuff that was being said and that, you know, from people in Ring of Honor and things like that. The problem, I think, EW's got, and I thought it from the start, is what was it? is the brand only works while the Bucks and the MAGA are there. Now, there's quite a strong possibility that relationship's going to fracture from what we've heard, you know, and that leaves Tony in a bit of predicament because the Bucks actually own the Elite name, they own the Elite trademark, you know.
That could be a problem. Yeah.
So it could be it could be a problem down the line. For me, I've always thought the same. You know, I mean, Gabe was also making a play to be number 2 at that point. You know, with MLW. I don't know why he hadn't sort of wrapped up guys like MGF and things like that. Though that was just bizarre. I mean, he took Hammerstone and the other. Fatu. I couldn't remember which one it was, but they didn't lock down it didn't lock down it was MGF, which I think was totally bizarre, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I remember the sort of dynamic around about that time as well. There was always that talk of like obviously WWE were expanding. They were going to be doing NXT Europe, you know, they were going to be doing the UK, and they were going to go in Mexico, and they were going to go to Japan, and I think that's going to happen this year from the sounds of it. But for me, AEW's identity is the Elite, and as soon as that's gone, and particularly if it's a sort of a fractured sort of breakup, you might find that AEW gets a bit of a rebranding. Maybe under the Ring of Honor name. I don't know. I'm just thinking about
speculating and throwing it out there.
Yeah, you know, I'm surprised they bought Ring of Honor. To be honest, because it didn't really fit in with the sort of model, and it's sort of just everybody was saying, and I know what was it like saying, oh, they'll not. Tony will look after it. He'll not do it. The WWE, WCW. It's exactly what they did. You know, I was a big Ring of Honor fan, and it's nothing like Ring of Honor. It's the product isn't even remotely close to what the Ring of Honor produced. What was it represented? You know.
Yeah.
It's so far detached. You know, it's a shame. You know.
Yeah. As the terms with obviously Ring of Honor, though, I mean, it had to leave. Obviously, who owned it before Tony Khan? I can't remember exactly who it was.
Sinclair Broadcasting.
Sinclair,
yeah. So it had to leave Sinclair because let's be honest, I felt like they did not give two toots about it. I mean, let's be honest. I always remember Final Battle, and I always remember Bully Ray's comments after that saying that he was very outspoken. It was probably really thing. And yeah, I feel like Sinclair really hurt that brand. And the big thing, obviously, with Ring of Honor is obviously the tape library. You're talking so many years, obviously, of Punk's matches, Danielson's matches.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot more there which I've mentioned.
Yes, so just on that, there is an actual Jim Cornette's covered this as well. Sinclair, I mean, that's not to say they've put more into it, but Sinclair got sold a lemon in terms of the library, and so is Tony. If you actually go listen to Cornette, they were still using VHS camcorder stuff, you know. What was it 2015, you know, and what was it called? And that was one of the things that Sinclair invested in was some cameras, you know. But it got to the point where they were actually going into the sort of the fan trading world and getting better quality versions of the stuff that they had in master, because it was VHS obviously degrades at time, you know. So the library's not. I don't think Tony Khan spent 50 million on Ring of Honor. I think that's a blatant lie. You know?
I don't.
No.
Ring of Honor's not worth $50 million.
Yeah.
I remember people were talking about that at the time. I was like, oh, bullshit. Like Vince bought WCW for like $6 million.
Yeah.
Like Ring of Honor is not selling to somebody for $50 million. Come on.
I mean, let's put it in perspective. Vince didn't just buy WCW for $6 million. He bought what was it, NWA, like for like going back to the 60s, you know,
all those old territories,
the library, you know, what was it called? He bought a lot for that $6 million, you know,
except for the one library that Billy Corgan bought.
Yes,
there was one territory specifically that Billy Corgan bought the tape library, but all the other territories are with Vince.
There's an interesting debate. What was it? A while back on a Cornette show, and it was Jim Cornette talking about when they did the really bad angle where they brought the NWA, they brought in the sort of New Midnight Express and brought in Jeff Jarrett and things like that. And what was it? Cornette was adamant that the WWE actually owned NWA, because there was never an expiry on the contract. Yeah. the contract was botched. So, but I mean, that's another. There's lots of stories there to be told as well around the belt and what Flair did with the belt as well. What was it called? There's a lot of dodgy stuff there. I mean, Billy's got the main thing. He's got that belt, which is worth more than the library, I think.
Yeah. That belt is iconic.
Yeah, because what's in the past is in the past. It's what you do with it in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, anything to add? Or can we move on?
Yeah, I thought that was, I just thought that that would be a good idea, and I agree with what Haney says about tying the Elite name to it. I think was a bad move. I think he should have took the established name of Ring of Honor, and I think it would have more cachet with internet fans today.
I think actually if he loses, obviously, the books, I feel like if he has to do that, he might obviously merge everything with Ring of Honor. Do you want to make it a bit more? Do you know what it is? So it's kind of going obviously what you said there, but it's like in a longer distance, if that makes sense.
At least he has it now as an option.
Absolutely.
I think it's really bad as well that the Bucks have trademarked this whole killing the business sort of. I mean, I get that it's an in joke and it's for this, it's sort of smart marks and things like that, but what was it called? I hope they don't go down that line, because that's a whole story that could cause a lot of issues.
That's what they should have the Bucks do. They should come back and be heels and say they're trying to kill the business.
Yeah,
and just come out and try to ruin like any good match. They just come out and super kick people and shit.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd book that.
I think I'd book that. Haney, back to you, my friend. What are you bringing to the table?
So, what was it? So I was thinking around sort of. I'm trying to think how to sort of put this. So the way wrestling is just now in terms of this global commodity, what was it called? I think it's a mistake on both WWE and AEW's sort of as both companies as a whole for not having a European TV show. Weekly in terms of product. I think it's a missed opportunity. I think the UK is a massive opportunity. Ireland, you've got Germany that's huge into its wrestling. What was it called? Look at the sort of scene that the UK had a couple of years ago, and it's sort of most of them now are in. What was it in the States now? One of the biggest challenges to that I get might be that there's a whole sort of they maybe like working in America is a sort of dream, But I think NXT UK was really showing something special, What was it before the sort of pandemic, and obviously that was sort of like nipped in the bud. And I just think if one of these, I mean, TNA is an example of how popular their product was. If they were over here more regularly or doing a show on a weekly basis and got a TV deal, I think it would be huge for wrestling in Europe.
Okay, Mr. Isaacs, over to you.
So what you're saying is that they should have like a separate show tailored to the European audience. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that for sure. I think this is something that we've seen companies do this in the past. I mean, we've seen TNA had that show. What was it, Ring Ka King or whatever? That was like the Indian show that they put on for a little while. So I think that it's a good idea to tailor your show and your product to a particular audience. And the WWE they've splintered and had shows for certain regions before. I don't know if you remember, they used to have a show called WWE New York.
Yeah.
It was literally just a New York show, and like Vince Russo did like commentary on it, and it was only for a New York audience. A WWE show exclusively for them. So, you know, I don't hate the idea, and I think they have enough wrestlers from Europe or Mexico or wherever where they could throw 3 or 4 matches of some guys, tape it before Dynamite or Collision, and chop it up and edit it, and they could put it out there in those particular countries and say, hey, here's some folks from your homeland that are representing AEW or WWE. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I think that would help a lot.
I think that's a spot on idea. Do you know what I mean? I mean, how many wrestlers, obviously from the UK and AEW, or Canada in like different promotions? Yeah, I kind of like that. So it's kind of like dark matches, but like tailored to like certain audiences. Is this what you're saying, Haney?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I can't argue against that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I think it's a good way. It's a good way to sort of present talent. You know, what was it? Maybe not with the WWE, but there's an opportunity with EW and TNA to have their talent work in the UK as well. You know, what was it at events? So, and then maybe they bring over a big star once in a while. You know, it's just about keeping that sort of building up that fan base. You know, away from the internet, shall we say, and getting it more. It's more about building that casual sort of audience. Kids love getting behind the superhero, you know. What was it? To take the WWE stuff. What was it called? Everybody sort of like poo-pooed sort of like the Nikki Cross sort of thing when she became a superhero. Kids loved it, you know. And that's what wrestling really is. When you go to these local shows, it's about family, you know. And you know, what was it called? I just think it's a missed opportunity. What was it? Particularly in the market where I am in Germany as well, where sort of wrestling is huge.
And it's like when the WWE wanted to expand their audience into India. And that's the reason why for years, the Great Khali, who was the absolute shits as a wrestler, made a 7-figure contract.
Yeah.
Just because he was a draw in India.
And he still is.
Tailor to the audience a little bit.
He still is. If you don't know, his social media is hilarious. I mean, he's like a god over there, you know?
Yeah. Doesn't he run his own promotion in India now or something like that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually going to throw one here. Actually, obviously, I obviously let you guys obviously talk about it, but I'm going to throw one out obviously for you to debate. Now, the one thing which fans have been very, very critical of, obviously in AEW, is obviously the women's division. I always remember the thing when Chris Statler was the champion, and there was just nobody there. There were so many injured and stuff like that. I think, for me personally, with the acquisition now of Deonna Purrazzo, possibly Mercedes Moné, I feel like the women's division is probably the strongest it's ever been since AEW started. Mr. Isaacs.
Liam, you bastard.
What?
You literally took my next one. The next one on my list was going to be AEW women's division is going to be dramatically better in 2024.
Okay, take 2. Anyway, Mr. Isaacs, what do you want to say?
All right, guys, I got one here for you, and we'll see if you agree with this, okay?
Okay.
The AEW women's division is going to be a lot better in 2024.
Objection, Your Honor.
So here's my reasoning. Before we get objections, let me get my reasoning. The Timeless Tony Storm gimmick is hot. I think she's doing great with it. We've got Sky Blue and Julia Hart that are very, very young, good looking, and improving by the day. We've got Mariah May in here now, who's very young, who trained, who wrestled in Stardom. I think she's going to be a star. Deonna Purrazzo just came in. We might see Mercedes Moné. We've got a healthy Chris Statlander. I think things are really, really looking up for the AEW women's division. And I think 2024, we're going to revisit this question in a year. I think this is going to be the best year of women's wrestling for AEW.
Andy, go ahead.
I think it can be, but I think the problem and I sort of agree. If it was with that, and sort of like, what was it in principle of the names you're sort of saying, but you're also forgetting you've got a couple of ballsy women there as well that are going to be fighting for that top spot, you know. And Wembley's coming up in August, and I mean, who's going to want that spot? Who's going to want that match? You know,
Jamie Hayter should be back.
Hopefully, you know, you don't. I mean, it's like people go, well, why do you hate Kenny Omega? And it's like, I don't hate Kenny Omega. I just hate the wrestler. You know, I don't want him to be hurt. You know, I don't want him to be like in a bad way. You know, that was it.
You love his promo voice, right?
Oh, jeez. You know, that crying out loud. It's the way he runs the ropes. It's for crying out loud. He's like a toddler. Taking the first steps. But, anyways, back to the thing with it. I mean, I think the WWE's women, is quite strong as well. I think for me the problem with women wrestling is, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, because I'm not one of these ones that actually sits there and thinks this, but people don't want to watch women's wrestling. You know, what was it called? There's a reason. There's a reason why the numbers sort of go down a lot of the time, but in the matches. Now, this comes back to the question earlier on about the entertainment with Tony Storm. She's doing good numbers. If you actually sort of look at the WrestleNomics, she's doing good numbers because of the character and things like that. You know, and I think it's sad because they really can do what the men do. You know. But that's not what the audience is looking for, you know. Sadly, that audience still thinks the women should be doing what the divas were doing, and what was it 15 years ago, and hitting each other with pillows and having mud fights. You know, that's what they want to see. You know, and that's always going to be hanging over. That's always going to be hanging over, sort of thing. The other thing that sort of like really frustrates me around the sort of like the sort of any sort of women division is the belief that this big women's evolution happened in like 2018 or whatever it was. It's like, no, go and watch Japan from like 30 years ago. The women were looking at absolute norm to each other, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so I hope you're right. I think with the name just I think the name just says some of them need somebody to be sort of managing them. Maybe CJ would be a good one to get a sort of female stable behind, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and sort of push that and push the sort of stuff that they're doing, because they're more than capable of it. You know, I think they get a sort of unfair sort of, as soon as a lot of people are not even. I mean, I like Jim Cornette's podcast, but the one thing that irritates me is he'll not even give the women a chance. He's just totally dismissive of it, you know.
Yeah. That's one of my big disagreements with Cornette too. I generally like Cornette. I've met Cornette. Yeah. He was super cool to me. But yeah, I disagree with his assessment of women's wrestling. That does kind of irritate me.
And I think, unfortunately, his assessment of women's wrestling is what a lot of people's assessment of women's wrestling is, unfortunately. Yeah. So, as a wrestling fan, I hope that what you're saying is the actual case, but what was it called? Have the sort of general fan got the attention span for it? You know, or are they just going to say, "Oh, here's another typical sort of female wrestling match"?
Right.
Away you go, and that's my concern about it. You know.
I think the thing is with me is as well, I want to obviously put a special mention to the Ring of Honor women's as well. Obviously, you got Athena, Billy Starks. That's the two which stick out for me straight away.
Billy Starks, Kentucky girl.
Well, Athena, queen of Botchamania. She's on it every week.
Anyway,
don't like her over there.
One thing I like with obviously the women's division, you've got the people who's obviously got your experience, and you've got the young talent who, I won't say they need that push, but somebody to look up to them. Do you know what I mean? Saying, look, they're still young, they're still obviously going to improve. I still think Sky Blue is going to be a top talent, you know, in the next couple of years. Same way, obviously, is it Maria May you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she's only been actually properly wrestling for about 18 months. You
They're
know,
very young. They're
But
all.
she's
We're talking about
absolutely
girls in their
insane.
early 20s.
yeah, you know. It was. I think it was this time last year. I think they said on AEW she appeared in Stardom. You know, yeah, amazing talent. You know, she's definitely one for the future. I think. What was it? People are going on about like getting like. What was it? Monet or what was it? What was the other one? What was the one that joined recently? I can't remember the name.
Peraza.
Peraza. Yeah.
I'll come on to that in a second as well. May.
Mhm.
That is the what was it, the knockout signing, you know, and people don't even realize it yet, you know.
Pun intended.
Yeah, but because again, people just dismiss Stardom as these little silly Joshua girls running about, you know.
Stardom's great.
I wouldn't take some of the. I mean, the way they sort of fling each other about and. What was it? Yeah, that's not that's not play fighting.
Mr. Raz, didn't you mention obviously about Stardom obviously in a previous episode saying it was good?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen of it, I haven't seen much. I've just seen, individual matches. I've seen people show on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever. But from what I've seen of it, it looks good. It looks legit. And I'm still hoping, and I don't guess it's going to happen anytime soon, but I'm still hoping they integrate it into New Japan World at some point so I can actually regularly follow them.
Yeah. Well, I mean that would be good, but what was it? The culture over there is a bit different, shall we say?
Yeah.
Well, my understanding too is that Stardom is locked in a contract with a competitor of New Japan's television distributor. So that keeps them from being on the same platform.
Yeah, it would be an interesting dynamic to see the sort of girls there wrestling. You know, it should be. It would be good to get a couple of good matches at like a big event. You know, because they do deserve it.
I'm surprised they didn't do an IWGP women's match this year at Wrestle Kingdom like they did last year.
Yeah, it's
like that just disappeared.
But unfortunately, when it's like anything that comes, it's like we were talking before about before the sort of call about Dolph, you know, and things like that. If you get injured, you know, things change and things go away. I mean, that whole thing was built for what was it, Mercedes, to be there for the whole year, and he was there 3 months, if that, you know.
She wrestled twice and then got hurt.
Yeah, so it's like, well, that didn't work. Let's just throw it away, you know.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Dean Ambrose in the US Championship in the WWE. They had it for 18 months, and I think he defended it once. You know, it's like, yeah, we're giving that idea at the belt. Just, I don't know what to. Well, we'll just leave it on him.
Yeah, that was one of those deals where the title just disappeared for a long time. I remember that.
Well, it didn't really disappear. It was he was wearing it, but not really.
Yeah,
competing for it.
Dear. Anything to add, anybody, before we move on? Nope. Awesome. Over to you for obviously the one final debate.
So the one final debate is about the importance of social media in wrestling and how it's changed the whole sort of dynamic of what wrestling is. And I'm coming from both directions, and from the fan and sort of a promotional standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think this is where WWE excels. You know, if you look at their numbers, it's just absolutely insane what they're doing online social media.
Millions of views. Yeah.
Which is I think where I think EW is lacking a bit and missing an opportunity. And it's also the reason why WWE product is the way it is, because they condense it so well that they can put out these shorts with full matches on them. You know, and you talked about the promo videos and things like that as well. You know, these things are getting millions of views. I don't even think WWE cares what they do on TV. The TV's just there for them to have a crowd there and film what they want to do in the social media. And this whole speed thing that they're match thing that they're talking about doing as well, the rumors about that, it sort of plays into that. Mm-hmm. I like that. I like the idea of these sort of 5-minute matches being exclusive to the internet. You know.
Yeah.
But from a fan standpoint, obviously, It depends on what side of the fence you're on, you know, how you feel about what people say and things like that. I'm a big advocate of, if I think something's wrong, I'll speak up, you know. What was it called? What was it? And then I get called an a-hole. Like, oh my god, you don't like this guy?
Surely
like,
not.
Yeah, it's like the logic of it, you know. Again, I think I covered it. I've probably seen too much wrestling now, you know. So when I see something like stupid, it's like everybody, like going back a couple of days with the what was it, the Wrestle Kingdom. I was watching Wrestle Kingdom, and it was everybody's like, how great was Will Ospreay and things like that. It's like, well, not really, because like Moxley hit his dirty deeds on him and he sprung straight up. Like, I mean, it used to be if you had somebody had a DDT on you, you were gone, you know. Now it's just like stuff like that takes me out the match, you know. And then there was a thing in NXT where they're doing the slingshot. It's like the guys are standing there for like 5 seconds waiting. It's like, are we wrestling or are we playing baseball? You know,
I hate that.
It's like, if I'm a wrestler and somebody's coming at me for the top rope, I'm not catching them. I'm moving them out of the way and letting them split.
Like,
I had that argument with somebody. Sorry?
That's the look they give when someone's getting up to the top rope. They go,
somebody argued with me once. He says, like, well, that's not what wrestling is about. What was it called? The guys there, you need to be there to protect the guy as well. They should be protecting your opponent and things like that. It's like, no, if I'm in a fight with somebody and they're coming off the top rope going to jump me, I'm moving out the way so they splat their face in the ground, you know.
Pull a Samoa Joe and walk off. Yeah, I love when he does that.
But anyways, that's my other one. Social media.
Mr. Isaacs.
Yeah, I think social media is going to be the future of just about, well, it's the present, but it's definitely going to be omnipresent across the board in the marketing of any future entertainment venue. Social media is something that I do think WWE does very well, and I think AEW should do better. I think AEW should take some of their big matches, like leading up to a pay-per-view. They should have taken a couple of MJF's old pay-per-view matches and put them up for free on their YouTube channel. Like it would have got 1 million hits, and it could have like helped get the word out that this guy's the champion. There's a pay-per-view coming up soon. This is stuff WWE does. If you look at WWE's YouTube channel, you'll see in the next couple of weeks, they're going to start putting up full Royal Rumble matches from like, 2011 and 2015 and stuff like that, just to kind of stir up excitement of people, so that when the algorithm catches your attention, if it knows that you're at least even mildly a wrestling fan, says, hey, why don't you click here and get a reminder of the 2011 Royal Rumble? And then it says down in the corner, you can watch the Royal Rumble in 2 weeks on Peacock and the WWE Network internationally. And it's just brilliant marketing. And I think AEW leaves money on the table by not doing the same thing. I think they really need to step it up. I don't know if maybe they just need to hire like a new, social media manager, content manager, or something like that. I don't know. But they need to have somebody spearhead their digital marketing and start doing some of these things that WWE does, because they're going to get left behind in the dust. I think they're leaving money on the table. So I agree with you.
I mean, WWE's even savvy with it. I mean, they did it with Punk before he even came back. They're doing it just now. If you actually go into the WWE website, they've got Sasha Banks matches there, So regardless of whether they're signing her or not, they're going to make it. They're going to make their money out of her before the debut, because
TNA even used to do this.
Yeah, they still do.
Like, here's an example of this. TNA, back when CM Punk first released that controversial Art of Wrestling podcast in 2014, TNA's YouTube channel uploaded the best of CM Punk and TNA. And it was like 3 hours of like CM Punk matches that they had from TNA.
I don't think you knew 3 hours of matches in TNA.
Yeah, I mean, he had a bunch of matches where he was basically just like a prelim guy, but they're like, hey, Punk wrestled for us, so come here and watch it.
Didn't they do the same way AJ Styles as well recently?
Yeah.
Like is it the Lone Wolf character, which I kind of like. As regards obviously to the social media side, I 100% agree with Haney. I feel like WWE does it so well. AEW needs to obviously take note. But for me personally, there's also the downside to obviously the social media side. For example, prime example, spoilers. Let's be honest. For me, obviously being in the UK, we can watch AEW online, but the problem we've got is we don't get to see it till the Friday. So I've got to try and stay off social media for 2 days straight. And then, do you know what I mean? Try not to see things like that and stuff like that. But then also you get the stories of like, hey, this has happened. Hey, this has happened. Hey, this has happened. I'm like, great. So I like the prime example is like Deanna Prazo's All Elite. I'm like, oh, great. I've not seen the fucking show yet. You know what I mean? There's good sides, but there's also bad sides, really, for me.
Sean Ross Sapp, you filthy bastard. You ruined the show for me. No, I can totally get that as well. And if I was an international fan, that would probably frustrate me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it happened a few times. With the Wrestle Kingdoms? You know, it's like, I've not seen it. And everybody's like, like you guys would go, well, I got up early enough to watch it, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I watched Wrestle Kingdom, obviously about 10 hours after it happened. And, I had already, just in our group chat, I'd already seen spoilers, and I knew I was going to see it. And I was like, I'm going to see spoilers. It just is what it is. I kind of just resigned myself to seeing them.
Which is why I actually like, obviously, our prediction league, because it's like, hey, you've got 4 matches wrong, or 4 matches right, 2 matches wrong. So I'm watching the show going, oh, okay, I got this match wrong. So it kind of adds that bit more excitement.
Right.
Weirdly. But speaking of social media sites, is obviously I want to put over a show over in the UK, New Generation Wrestling, which is obviously I went to in December. Now, these guys obviously haven't got much social media presence. And I've stated many times to Stevie Aaron, obviously our good friend of the show, they haven't got the presence online, but the product, obviously I've been there, is really, really good. I feel like if they could get, as you mentioned there, getting it out there, I feel like they could go on that next step. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see a lot of indie promotions do this. That New South Wrestling, I mentioned it, before we went on the air live, we were talking about independent promotions close to us. And they have a YouTube channel. And I went through there and watched some of their stuff, including a lot of Pillman Jr. matches, a couple of Jay Lethal matches that they had recorded. They just had a single camera in the crowd and recorded like a Jay Lethal match, and they've got it on their YouTube channel. Yeah. And it's good marketing. You get it out there, let people know you exist. Now you can put clips on TikTok. You'll end up in the algorithm of people that like wrestling of TikTok. The outreach potential is there. You just got to make content, chop it up, and get out there and show it to people.
It comes down to the production thing as well. I think there's a perception that things need to be like overproduced. They need to be produced. At a wrestling show, all you need is a hard cam. You could have the whole show and you could be selling it on a website. What was it for a couple of quid? Even if you're just like charging a couple of quid, £2. A wrestling fan will buy it. And if you sell 100 worldwide, then so be it. But it's free money. What was it? Maybe obviously you need a camera, but you can do that with a phone now. So there's lots of opportunity. And I think social media, what was it in wrestling, as you say, that's where content's driving anyway. I think I've said this before, and I use this as an example. In the States, your TV programs, I think it works out to be like something like 23 minutes per half hour, right? And that's actually based on like Nielsen stuff way back in like the families in the 60s and the 70s, where that was that was how much they could get out of somebody. It was ad-wise because they were interested in the program, And there's an interesting there was a couple of interesting sort of articles online about it. Basically, 22 minutes was the attention span back then. It's now 14, 13 minutes of attention span that people have got, because we're so stimulated with so much. So short bursts of things is a really good way of doing things. And I think this is where WWE are going with this speed match thing as well, And it's believable because MMA matches, if you make it sports orientated,
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
if you're just going to have a standard WWE match, I don't think it'll work. But if you're going to have sports orientated wrestling matches, and they're only like 5 minutes, you know, and the guys took out, I think that would do really well, you know. It was
Yeah.
a sort of side thing.
Have an instant knockout in a pin. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do the Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren UFC fight, or Masvidal just runs across the cage, flying knee, and knocks him out. You know, let's see what your Olympic gold medal in wrestling does when I knee you in the face.
Dude, do you know what, guys? This has been a really fun show, but of course, we have actually got a winner, and it's been really thingy. We've obviously agreed on a lot of stuff, but Mr. Isaacs, you have successfully defended your crown.
Excellent.
You got me to disagree with you on something. So, Mr. Isaacs, you obviously are today's. I nearly said master debate, but that sounds like something completely different.
I am the master debater of effing wrestling, live right here on YouTube.
I mean, even in the introduction, he says you guys kind of agree on a lot of stuff. Really, to be honest.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Haney's the one guy that, like, if I say something logical criticizing AEW, he's the one guy in our community I know is not going to give me shit about it.
I think that's a debate show. Obviously, in the context of a debate show, that's what's missing. People take sort of somebody's opinion as like it's an opinion. My opinion's my opinion. You know, but we're on a sort of community and we're talking about wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's my opinion. You know, just because it differs doesn't mean what was it? I'm telling you not to go out and enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Enjoy what you like to watch. You know, maybe a box match. Maybe I would try and push you in that incline. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, but was it? It's that's the good thing about wrestling. There's so much content, you know, and it's so diverse and it's so great, you know. I'm actually coming away thinking, did I really talk badly, like the woman down? Wrestling, that's not where I was trying to get with my opinion on that as well. That's my perception of how I see people in the wider audience. See the sort of, it's not seen as something worthwhile watching, which I think is a damn shame, because I think some of the matches that they do are absolutely amazing, you know.
There's still a lot of progress to be made.
Yeah.
Just in general, just across the board as a human species, there's a lot of progress still to be made.
Yeah, I mean, you see sort of like some of the sort of comments that get flung out. You know, it's like, what was it? I mean, Julia Hart, for example. I mean, if you read some of the stuff like that, well, she's only there because she's pretty. You know, they wouldn't bring in somebody else. It's like, well.
This kind of reminds me of not to cut you off, Haiti, but that kind of reminds me of like a conversation I had with my mother and my ex about probably 12, 13 years ago. I was watching Impact and they had like the knockouts on and you know, I don't remember who was wrestling in that particular moment, but you know, they were both giving me shit like, oh yeah, I see why you like to watch this. And I was like, no, like these two women are actually really good wrestlers. They put on a good wrestling match. Like, oh yeah, sure. It's just because of how they're dressed. It's like even women are not convinced that we can like it just because of the wrestling. But I legitimately liked the match because of the wrestling. It wasn't because of how they looked. You know, and there's just a lot of that stereotype that we're still fighting against.
Yeah, and I agree with what you just said there, because one thing I actually hate is like, oh, this wrestler's only in wrestling, as you mentioned there, because she's pretty, but I can think of a dozen wrestlers, you know what I mean, but based on the talent. I always watch it from a talent's point of view. I don't even give the looking thing a thought. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the one person that'll go down, and I know she's had some great accomplishments as that. For me, that's sort of sad and heartbreaking in terms of how passionate she is for wrestling. Is Saraya. You know, but was it at All In? Watching her match, but was it not to devalue the match, just was quite. I mean, it was the same. It was like it was unsettling to watch to see what she was and how much she's protected now. But it was amazing that she got that amazing opportunity at Wembley, and you wouldn't want to take that back because that sacrifice she's made. You know, she might not be able to do what she used to do, and she might be protected, but she damn well deserved that moment. You know, because she'd been doing it since she was 14-year-old. You know. And what was it? She was putting on these amazing matches, but was it before she even went to NXT, and then when she was NXT and the WWE, you know, it's a damn shame, you know. What was it called? That scenario was there, you know, because she was a phenomenal wrestler, you know.
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal. And I don't think people had an opportunity to fully see what she was capable of in the WWE. They did a wee bit in NXT. But what was it? Go try and look up some of her matches before she was pre-WWE. You know, they're really well put together. You know, they're great matches to watch.
And it was when she got to the main roster in WWE was really kind of when the quote unquote women's revolution kind of took off, because at that time, AJ Lee was kind of the only person that could really wrestle on WWE TV as a woman. Yeah. So then when Paige came in, beats her in her first match. I mean, it just really, really set off a chain of events that really dramatically improved women's wrestling. I don't think Saraya gets enough credit for that.
No, definitely not.
Agree. Absolutely. Right then, guys. Obviously, this is main events brought to you by our second sponsor, which is, of course, the Kill City Cup. I think the best way I could describe this is Mortal Kombat meets wrestling. And again, we've got a nice little video. I'm just going to play the video before I end up bursting out laughing.
Welcome to the Kill City Cup.
I don't have my soundboard turned on.
I was waiting for that.
I hit the button, but no sound came out. But I haven't opened the software, so yeah.
Damn it! I was waiting for that.
Bang, bang. There you go.
Right. So obviously we've got rest for the rest of the week. I do believe the garage is obviously on after Collision.
Yes. As of right now, the plan is we are still going to do Collision After Dark after a couple weeks worth of a hiatus. So tune in for that.
Of course, and then obviously the All Effing Wrestling shows tomorrow. I'm not actually 100% sure what they're doing. Any ideas?
I have not heard. I'm not sure.
Okay, and of course next week, Mr. Isaacs, we're doing a Highs and Lows series is coming back. Do you want to announce what we're going to be covering?
I think we're doing the Sting one, right? Highs and Lows of Sting.
Correct.
Yes, the Highs and Lows of Sting, which is very topical right now, considering he's about ready to hang it up.
Woohoo!
Exactly.
After a 150-year career.
Yep. So obviously next week we're going to be taking.
I was going to say, what one is wrestling? Is this like the fourth incarnation of Sting, the fourth person to play Sting?
Probably. This is the Social Security eligible Sting. That's what this incarnation is.
Yeah,
I wonder what ever happened to the Seth Rollins broke my back Sting. He was only about for a while.
Anyway,
you got to tune in next week, Haney, to see if that's a high or low.
Yeah.
Yep. So obviously we'll explain next week what that's all about. But of course, you guys want a t-shirt, you can head to prowrestlingtees.com/effing wrestling. You can get the Magic of Wrestling t-shirt.
Yeah.
The All Effing t-shirt, which is modeled by our good friend of the show, Natalia Markova. Mr. Isaacs, you know this, you do this every week. The old school.
If you love old school wrestling, and I know you do, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Adrian Adonis We run the Pro Wrestling Tee shop of the adorable Adrian Adonis, who you can find on a episode of the Vice documentary series Dark Side of the Ring.
Of course, and we're gonna, if I remember rightly, we're gonna do a bit more some streaming, I believe.
Yeah, the plan going into this year is that the Magician and myself are we're probably gonna be doing some gameplay, and you guys might be able to see us wrestle against each other, or like shoot people in Call of Duty or something like that. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
He's going to be having tickle fights.
We might have tickle fights.
Yeah.
We might do the pillow fight thing that you see on Fight TV sometimes. Have you seen the pillow fight league where it's like they literally have pillows and beat the shit out of each other with them?
Yeah, but it's not fluffy pillows. A good one. Just on that, I don't know if you've ever seen it. A good one. Do you remember back in the day where you had what was it, that like wrestling manager simulator game? What was it?
Total Extreme Wrestling, isn't that what it was? Yeah.
There's a new one called Pro Wrestling Simulator, which is quite good on Steam, and it might be a good thing for you to do. Is maybe have once a week you sort of book a show. You could spend 15 minutes of the show, but was it picking your wrestlers and booking your show and seeing how it goes? That might be a good idea to do. And both of you run 2 different promotions.
I used to play with that a lot, when I was in high school, when that was first came out.
Tony Khan's still using the cheat code. Oh wait, no, that's AEW.
If you guys obviously want to find us on social media, effing Magician obviously on Twitter, Mr. Isaac, that's your Instagram and Twitter, I believe. Underneath.
Yes, it is. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Isaacs.
There you go. So one final thing is, we do this every week. Should we let Haney do it, or do you want to do it, Mr. Isaacs?
Let's get Haney to do it. He's the guest of honor.
Of course. So Haney, at the end of every show, we do a powerful speech and stuff like that to end the show. So Haney,
don't give it to me. I'm not good with words.
Okay, Mr. Isaacs, over to you.
Haney's been talking the entire show, and he's not good at words. Well, look, guys, you all know the deal. We're in the new year at this point. It's 2024. It's if there's ever a theoretical time to kind of look at things and reset a little bit, we society kind of imposes the new year as an opportunity for that. So what you can do is, if you're struggling with something in life, take a step back. This is a new year. It's time to reevaluate the things that are going on in your life and figure out ways you can make it better. And we're all here to support each other. I'll support you. I'm sure Haney will as well. Liam, anybody in our community, we'll have your back. If you're having a hard time and you need help, reach out and let us know. But you got to remember, guys, put that fist in the air. Just keep fighting.